Pause. No.
Hi, I am Allegra Stuart, and we are with my new series called Back to the Real, a song that I wrote with Matt Darey in probably so long ago. But I needed a title for my conversations with artists and their interpretations and what they're doing and what their thoughts are on the future of music and just as a creative, their lives. And we are here with Lily Aycud.
Good
Lily,
morning, Allegra.
who are you and how do we know each other?
Oh my gosh. So I am a musician who went to school with you, Allegra, at New England Conservatory for one semester before I bailed because I couldn't afford it. It was too expensive. However, I was thinking about that today. Do you know how long ago that was? That was 36 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So
That could either make us feel really good about ourselves or like hide in a corner.
I'm very ready for like senior home stuff. I don't know. But so I was there to play trumpet. I was a trumpet performance major. And we met because you were showing because I was lost on the first day of school and I asked you a question because I didn't know where a classroom was. And so you directed me to my first class
Wow.
and then we became friends after that.
That's surprising because it's super not my personality. As
Oh,
you
trust
know,
me, it was a burden for you. And you were very, very upset that the school didn't tell me anything. And just that's
I
just
probably was more
that's
upset about that than having to show you where to go. I probably was
yes,
trying to fault something or, you know.
you were indeed. So that is how we met. And since then we have stayed in touch, mostly interesting lately, recently on the phone during the pandemic. And so 30 years ago, we just started calling each other. And it was very cool because you're a music educator and I'm a music educator. And we started talking about teaching during the pandemic.
So tell me who you are.
Okay, so who am I? All right, so I am a musician. I started playing piano when I was 5 years old. I took viola when I was in elementary school, and then I started playing in middle school. Loved it, obsessed with it. I was the kind of kid who would sing along to the radio and knew all the lyrics to songs. I loved singing. My mother was a singer, and I have some siblings who were also were musicians, and we were all forced to play piano. We were all forced to join band, and so we had a little Partridge family thing going on when we were growing up. And I think it was really just so we could accompany my mother who loved to sing. And so I think that was her main goal was to have some musicians so she could have a backing band. And she
And
never
did you
performed. She
did
just sang at home.
yeah, but as educators, I always promote, and I'm sure you do too, because sometimes we see some students who we all know is, it's for fun. This is never going to be like their career, which is fine, but in like other cultures, that's exactly how they approach music as just a gathering and community and expression.
Yes.
But how did you pick your instruments?
Well, piano, like I said, was required. I'm Filipino American, and so like all of my Filipino friends, we all had to take piano lessons,
Hmm.
and so started out on that. And then I went to an elementary school. It was like a what do they call it? A gifted program school, but they offered string program there. So I started taking that in third grade through fifth grade. And then they gave me the viola. I don't know why, but whatever. I played it. It was an instrument and I
I
learned how to
love
play
the
an
viola.
alto clef or something. It was very confusing, but it was helpful for the trumpet later on because
Yeah, yeah,
it was good
yeah.
for transposition.
I
And
think
then
it's
when
interesting they started you on viola though. Like I begged to play the viola. I started out on violin with my mom, Suzuki method, and then I begged to play viola because I just love, actually I truly love the bass.
oh
But
wow.
that was the closest as a little kid I could get to. But how, I'm curious how the viola.
Well, I don't think I picked it. I think they picked it for me because they needed the instrument covered and maybe
Okay.
they already had violinists. And to
And you
be
were
honest,
gifted, so they probably assumed that you would be able to do the alto clef.
it might have been because I was
Yeah.
already like playing piano and everything in
Hmm.
third grade. But, um, I will say that I probably should have started on the cello. More on that later.
Yes, I know.
Because I really just love the cello. And I even loved it back then, but it was a big instrument, probably an expensive instrument, bulky. So
Mm.
didn't play
Hmm.
it, played the viola. And then my sisters, my older sisters, because I'm the youngest, were in band already.
Okay.
And one of them was playing the trumpet in marching band when she was in
Hmm.
junior high school or high school, which was kind of like the trumpet. And so she would
Hmm.
bring it home from school and I'd fiddle with it. And I thought, how cool is this, brass instrument? She taught me how to buzz and everything. And so then when it was time for me to choose a band instrument in sixth grade, I just gravitated towards the trumpet, which isn't true because I think I wanted to play the saxophone, but it was too expensive. So my mom was able to buy a trumpet probably for like $75 or something like
Hmm.
that. And it was a used trumpet. Put all my rock stickers on it and everything. It was really cool. And started playing trumpet. And ever since then, I still play trumpet today. I play a lot of other instruments still too, but the
And if
trumpet.
you saw Lily Beth right now, she has all of these keyboards behind her and a synthesizer. And is that a Rhodes behind
This
you
is a
also?
nice little whirly.
Yeah, okay. So
Cool
she's
story about the whirly, real quick.
okay.
This is
Okay.
so I live in Los Angeles, and
Yes,
so
important to
talking about
know.
like who am I? I live in Los Angeles. I spent several years being a sideman for more indie artists and doing rock music and commercial music more than classical or jazz or anything.
Hmm.
Um, but I am obsessed with instruments. I'm obsessed with keyboards, obviously,
And
and
every time I talk to her, there's always a new instrument on the horizon. But I have to say the cello has been very consistent of as of late. Because
as
at
of
one
late.
point it was the accordion.
It was during the pandemic, and that's a keyboard instrument, and that was
Yes,
fun. And I was able to get a lot of gigs playing accordion for Shabbat services, which
I
was
believe
awesome.
it.
But let's see. So the Whirly story, real quick. I was looking on Craigslist. I think I was listening to the radio, or I don't know, it wasn't the radio, some music, and I was thinking about Hall and Oates, and I loved
Oh,
the
okay.
sound of one of the songs, and I was like, "What is that they're playing?" Oh, that's a Wurlitzer, right? And so I looked on Craigslist. Remember Craigslist?
Mm.
Okay, Wurlitzer, and it was crazy because there was an ad for a Whirly that was on sale that somebody was trying to sell, and he was one of the sound men for Supertramp.
Oh, okay. So we're talking like 80s.
Well, but this was like in the 2000s when I
Yeah,
was
but
looking,
you
right?
we're talking about Hall and Oates, we're talking about
Oh
the
yeah,
the
I love that
Whirly,
stuff.
and he's a sound man for that Super Tramp. And
And so when he went on tour with them in the 80s, yeah,
hmm,
when they finished the tour, they let him keep the keyboard. So
nice.
this keyboard lived in the garage of the guy's house until he finally wanted to, like, get rid of stuff and purge.
Okay.
And so he sold it to me for $500, and it's in great condition. And
Okay.
so anyway, so that's one of my little babies. I got a little Casio keyboard back here from the 80s as well. So if I wanted a little who are those New Zealand guys? I love them. That used to the comedians, the two guys that had a TV show. You don't watch TV, so it doesn't matter. I'm gonna have to look it up. But anyway, they would make songs and have a TV show, and it was silly. And they used a Casio, like Casio beats, even though this was also in the 2000s.
Speaking of some of those people that you have mentioned, what kind of music do you listen to?
I listened to everything, to be honest. When I was growing up, my mom loved like Frank Sinatra. She loved Tijuana Brass. She loved Tom Jones. She loved I don't know, a bunch of just different. just oldies kind of music. And then I studied classical music all through, on the trumpet and with obviously the viola. So I loved classical music. But when I got to high school, I really got into that shoegazer music. And then I lived in Europe during the early 90s. So I was really getting into electronica, techno music, and things like that. I've always loved jazz, always wanted to be a jazz trumpet player, but I just could not, as a classically trained musician, could not get comfortable practicing improvisation and jamming with people. So that was something I struggled with for many years. So I don't know. I listen to as much music as possible. My husband loves uh, kind of like Fela Kuti stuff and prog rock, and he comes from a different kind because he's a drummer kind of music. So since we've been together for so long, I've also listened to a lot of music that he has grown up listening to. Um, can't put my finger on it, Allegra. I'm sorry. I just love it all. So, music that I've played, I've played a lot of in rock bands. I played with this Mexican singer, Ceci Bastida, who's from Tijuana. She was in a punk band when she was younger. And then she was in a punk band with this famous Mexican singer, Julieta Venegas. And so she played keys for her after she left, after they both left Tijuana. No, and then Ceci moved to Los Angeles and started her solo career. So I've gone down to Mexico and played a lot of kind of, I don't know, how do you call it, independent, indie Mexican
So,
pop
so
music.
with all that being said, because it's very eclectic and very interesting, my question, I guess, now is with all of that and your husband and listening to the music that he enjoys too, what is sort of your inspiration now that it's beyond just trumpet playing? So, what is your inspiration as an educator, as a composer? Where does that take you now with all of those experiences that you have had? Because you have gone through the education process, and we're always, obviously educating ourselves all the time. But in the back of your mind, when you're thinking of these things, what is that in the back of your mind that drives your inspiration?
Okay. I would say when I was in high school, I started writing songs and I used a piano, I used a guitar. I was really into like Tori Amos or things like that. So when I first started writing, it was like typical love songy kind of, very simple chord progression kind of music. And I still think like even with electronica music, you can make some great music with a couple chords. Um, I'm trying to figure out how to create beats on my own. I'll usually use my husband. He can do that pretty quickly and easily. And it's really what I like to do now is incorporate all the instruments that I play and try to find some kind of unique sound. And it might be electronica sounding. I like to use synths, and so I like sound. I just textures and I want to create moods. I don't. I started taking these songwriting classes over the past year. One with a great musician, Genevieve Artadi, who's in Los Angeles, and she sings with this great drummer, Lewis Cole, out here. They have a band called Knower. And then I also took a Brian Eno course. And I think, if anything, it was really trying to push yourself and not do something that's typical. And so right now, I think a lot of my music when I was growing up just was like I could make a hook. I could write, really great melodies and things like that. But now I'm just trying to explore and push myself into not doing the expected. And I guess that's where I am right now.
So
I
if
don't know if I'm
that it
successful at it, but that's what I'm doing.
so if somebody heard, I don't know, and you're going to share some music a little bit later, but if somebody heard one or two of your latest songs, what
Mhm.
would they describe it as? Say like your middle schooler comes in and say, "Hey," um, they'll say, "Oh, I think it's a little bit this, or I think it's a little bit that," because they're sometimes they're
I can
The
actually tell you
genres are
exactly.
limited. So I'm
I
just
can tell
curious.
you because I was recently on a middle school trip in Vancouver with a bunch of seventh graders. And so we were based in Vancouver. And one day we took a bus out to Whistler Mountain. It's like a ski resort kind of place. And I took a lot of video footage of it. And it was incredible because it was dumping snow, like fresh pow pow all the way. And it was a 2 hour bus ride. And so after we left, everybody's crashed out because it was a long day. I opened up GarageBand on my iPad because that's what I had with me. And I started making beats and I started, just yeah, using the synth sounds and everything. And I created the soundtrack and then I made a slideshow of all the video footage I made of the day. And
Beautiful.
it was awesome. So I'll share that with you because that was just something that was just like 2 hours, boom, in and out. That's another thing I try to strive for is not to be too thoughtful about things because I'll never
Hmm.
finish anything,
And
right?
I think that's kind of common for composers and things. Do you think that, I mean, because people have different ideas about this. Some people think that, oh, you're just gifted at it. Other people feel like, oh, you're gifted and you have to work at it. And then other people are like, oh, you can work at it, but it's never going to be like that gifted person. Do you feel like all of your experiences that you have talked about before, growing up in a family who everybody had to play an instrument and being exposed to all kinds of music and then also taking it further and trying to engage and learning these other instruments that have come across, but as a teacher, you're learning other instruments too. Do you feel like that is something that you would encourage also your students to do? And do you feel like that just really has helped you, or do you feel like that has made it more difficult for you to kind of hone in on what you want to do?
Oof. I think, I guess in short, there's a lot of questions there, but um, when I was growing up, I guess I had this idea that I was like gonna be destined for greatness. Like I really thought like I've got a lot of talent because people would tell me that as a little kid, right? But that was a lot of pressure. And then you would see all these amazing, like when I went to New England, that's when I saw like I was out of high school, out of, my little small town in Virginia. That's when I saw great musicians, or people wanting to be great musicians. And so there were people that were way better than me. And then it just really gave me a complex where I wasn't good enough. And so I think I struggled with that as a musician for many years. And when you're composing and creating, you you don't share things, you don't finish things because you're just like kind of what will the feedback be? Will they think I'm writing crappy music and just because it's pop music or whatever. So through the years, getting over all those hangups is like with the improv and with writing. I think right now my biggest goal is just to make sure everything I do is authentic and it really is my unique voice. And, because I'm older now, who cares what you think? Right? It's like, this is me, and I'm happy to put it out there. So that's my whole thing. So going back to my story with the video,
Yes.
there was a little boy who was like,
Pause.
pause. Okay.